We welcome you to the Big Bid Theory Studios here in Austin, Texas. I'm your humble host, Bill Culhane. Before we get started, all here at the Big Bid Theory, BidPrime, and around these parts, join everyone in extending our thoughts and prayers to those affected by the recent horrific incident in Las Vegas. Vegas, a city I've personally visited numerous times on business, had a number of clients there in the Valley a number of years ago. I, like I'm sure many of you, have visited Las Vegas on vacations. I had a speaking engagement there a handful of years ago as well. So many lives forever impacted. Absolutely awful. And of course, also since our last visit, the same applies to those faced with the devastation caused by Hurricane Maria. There too, once upon a time, I had a client in Fajardo del Este in Puerto Rico, a beautiful area, wonderful people, absolutely so sad. I know everybody agrees. Now, our longtime listeners recall that last time our episode centered on Hurricane Harvey, disaster preparedness, disaster recovery. Well, in this episode, we change gears completely. And I asked the question, are your local government agencies leveraging social media? If so, how are they? As I sit here right now in the studio and look in the BidPrime database, I have it up on one of our screens here. There are numerous requests related to exactly that. I see social media services, social media consultants, software writers. Here's a couple of requests for social media campaign development. It's endless, and it's interesting to see what's going on here. Now, by the way, if you have a second, and I've done so, check out what the CDC and NASA are doing on social media. Take a look at their accounts, Twitter, Facebook, what have you. Jenna Gross, a marketing and social media expert from Moving Targets over in the Keystone State, Pennsylvania, is going to stop by in a moment to share some of her thoughts on social media. As you know, our Jim Ward, the maestro of crazy bids, he's also, of course, a renowned yoga teacher and student. Well, JW, some of you who have been around the show for a while know that Jim is also a frequent visitor to the Burning Man Festival. Well, Burning Man wrapped up about a month ago, and we're still awaiting Jim's return. And on that note, pending his return, we went into our vault for one of Jim's all-time best editions of Crazy Bids You Can Win. You don't want to miss that. I mentioned Jenna Gross. One of our researchers, the incomparable Lauren, was on Forbes and came across an article penned by Jenna having to do with social media. And Lauren shouted, "We need to have this person on the show." Well, we agreed because, disagreeing with Lauren isn't fun, not healthy. What's that? I'm joking, Lauren. Calm down. Well, Jenna Gross is a member of the Forbes Agency Council, graduated from East Stroudsburg, home of the Warriors, has extensive expertise in social media, email marketing. You also see that she has some design background as well. Here's my visit with her.
Jenna, you and I visited yesterday, and we had a conversation before we hit the record button a moment ago. I'm going to give it a try. Moving Targets is in Perkasie, Pennsylvania?
Perkasie.
I've
never met somebody from outside of the area that can say it right, so it's Perkasie.
So duly noted. Anyway, as I mentioned a moment ago, Jenna is from Moving Targets, and Moving Targets will share the company's, the business's URL later in this segment. But Moving Targets, they're known for being a full-service marketing agency, and included in that is helping with social presence and engaging with customers. Jenna, by the way of lead-in, and as I put in the email I sent you yesterday, it's kind of an opportunity to brag, but specific to social media, share with us a couple of success stories that you and the folks at Moving Targets have had.
With social, part of, I think, where we really excel is blending it with not only other platforms, but really staying focused on the marketing aspect of it and not so much the tech components. Our company's been around for 25 years. So, and part of that, we started as like a traditional direct response agency where marketing is the core, as opposed to, and maybe about 10 years ago, we developed our social media plan and that division. But really at the focus of everything is the marketing itself, whereas a lot of agencies focus on like the technical aspects of it, of the mechanics of the platforms and how they work, which is also critical. But at the core of everything is the marketing message and inciting influence from people using different platforms to do that, different touch points at different times.
One thing that I've noticed in my travels, and clearly you are more deeply rooted in marketing and social media than I am, but I've noticed a lot of businesses, a lot of organizations, and of course this is the big bid theory, so we're talking about public sector agencies as well, but kind of using that shotgun approach when it comes to social media. Everybody who's listening to this podcast is well aware here in the state of Texas, of course, Hurricane Harvey. It was barely over a month ago, Hurricane Harvey happened, and then obviously the horrific, unfortunate incident in Las Vegas. Particularly as of late, as I mentioned, in a few situations, unfortunately, we've seen government agencies use social media effectively to inform people, to share news. So, Jenna, when you're looking at large organizations, and in some cases, of course, that includes government agencies, how can those large organizations best utilize social media?
Well, one of the things that is really critical, because you never know when disasters are going to strike or something like that happens, and social media, you can't wait. You have to act quick. So to have a plan in place 24 hours a day of if something happens, these key people know how to respond. They will do it accordingly, sort of have like a protocol mapped out ahead of time, because you never know and you can't delay in posting, and you also don't want to, you want to have resources that you can, relay news from that are accurate, trusted. You're not posting alternative fact kind of stuff. So to be able to have policies in place ahead of time in the event that you need to just react quick. And as a, government agency, people are turning to you to see the news. So it's critical that you act quick and with the right information, as concise as possible. So to kind of plan ahead for that is really important and often overlooked, because it's not like an 8 to 5 job where, oh, I'm done work for the day, like I'm off this.
You bring up a great point, Jenna, and I heard you use the word plan a number of times. In my conversations over recent times with business leaders, I hear more and more businesses including social media as part of their business continuity planning, because I think you bring up a great point. When an event happens, whether catastrophic or not, but when an event happens, it's too late to plan for what you're going to do, how you're going to get your messaging out there, and who you want to share your message with.
Right. Yeah. You just need to be able to have that ahead of time, so that way you know who's going to, what key people are going to be posting, and they need to be able to just react to it and already have that stuff in the background, already have the strategy mapped out just in case they do need to do something, because there is no time to plan or run things by different people, and you need to do it instantly as it happens.
I mentioned at the start of our segment of our visit that moving targets, one of the specialties that you folks have, is engaging with customers. And so often when it comes to marketing, when it comes to social media, you hear the word messaging. Messaging is so important. So just in terms, and you can go down any road you like, Jenna, with messaging, but what are your hints when it comes to ensuring that you have a consistent, effective message that you're sharing out there with the world?
I guess it would just be how you talk to people and how you communicate, the same way as you want, customers that are, or clients, whoever, when they are in front of you, you want the same sort of message, you want the same tone, you want to treat them the same way, so they have the similar experience, whether they talk to you or your coworker. You want to ensure that their experiences is along the same lines. So I guess that's what I mean by messaging, is how you communicate with people, how, your sort of your message that you're sending out.
one thing we always hear as well is the word measure. Measure, measure, measure. Specific to social media effectiveness, how is the measuring done? Just give you a little bit of background. Here in our day job, our business, we're on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, a variety of other platforms as well. How does one go about measuring the effectiveness of what you're doing on social media?
I think going into each platform, you need to determine what your goal is. You don't want to just be posting content just to post like, oh, it's Tuesday, I have to post something this afternoon. You want to sort of have the strategy behind it, sort of know what your end goal is. Like, what's your end goal on Twitter? Are you trying to communicate? Are you trying to talk to people, be more of a resource, that sort of thing? So I think defining your purpose and why you're on that platform will help you set up goals, because without knowing, if you're just randomly posting updates whenever you feel like it or whenever something comes to mind, that's all it's going to be. So you need to have like a purpose to it. And once you define the purpose, you can pair it with different KPIs and kind of figure out what you're looking to do. Are you trying to get traffic to your website? Are you trying to build up an email list? Are you trying to get subscribers to a newsletter? That sort of thing. So I think once you determine that, you have to build your content around that and in support of it and tell your story using those elements, like integrating those elements in to make it more cohesive and sort of in path to your goal.
Jenna, how can people get a hold of you if anybody has any follow-up questions or they want to learn more about Moving Targets?
Our website is movingtargets.com, or they can reach out on Twitter, and my Twitter is JennaG812.
Awesome. Well, Jenna, on behalf of our audience, everybody here at the Big Bid Theory, we do appreciate you stopping by.
Thanks so much for having me.
Moving Targets URL and Jenna's Twitter handle, by the way, are in the description of the podcast, as you know. In the storied history of our podcast, I'm kidding, guys. Okay, in the history of our podcast, we are swiftly approaching episode number 50. The Jim Ward has hit home run after home run on Crazy Bids. Wherever you are, Jim, we miss you. Come back soon. Here we go back in time for one of the best editions of Crazy Bids ever.
All aboard! It's Crazy Bids. Good gosh. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. This is Jim Ward, the triumphant returning keeper of the vault
of crazy bids that you can win
for the Big Bid Theory. I want to say hello. How you been? It's been a while. Hope things are good. How are the kids? Great. Enough witty banter. So this Crazy Bid is brought to you from the city of Evanston, Illinois, Greater Chicagoland, also known as my adult home. And it is for, the title of the bid is Public Art Light Sculpture. It is due on May 16th. As some of you may recall, I dabble in the dark art of light painting and have for a few years now. I'm really good. I'm extremely adept at getting exactly what I want out of the light, which is very hard. Some of my work has now been internationally acclaimed. I'm proud of it. So this is actually not necessarily a crazy bid that you can win as much as a crazy bid that Jim can win. But, you can still bid on it. Just bid it with that in mind, so at your own discretion. We have seen many cities and municipalities issuing RFPs for very similar bids like this that are using light painting and light sculpture as a means of landscape architecture. Instead of the landscape actually contorting the topography to your liking, we're able to do it simply with light. We can create depth, we can create movement, we can create anything really that you want. The reasons that cities are going to this is, Number one, I mean, aesthetically, it's just very pleasing to the eye. It's an attractive thing. I always wonder whenever I see a store or something advertising using light, it catches my attention, and I just wonder why more people don't do that, because, and the second reason, it's the cost. It's very minimal. Lights these days use very, very little electricity. There's no cost for maintenance, so if you were to do landscape architecture at the same intersection in Evanston, it would require a team to constantly upgrade and maintain the landscape architecture or the landscape project. Many cities are going to this light landscape versus landscape architecture for public works and public spaces. The reasons are multifaceted. For one thing, there's the beauty of it. Aesthetically, it's very pleasing to the eye. It's extremely inexpensive. Lights are very, very cheap these days to run. Their cost also, there's no maintenance. So if someone did the traditional what I think of as landscape architecture, like land art, that requires so much maintenance. It's crazy. Another neat thing about this is if you want to change the way it looks daily even, you can do so with light. You could not do so with the traditional methods. And last but not least, by any means, is a safety issue. And I don't mean this tongue-in-cheek because we're talking about Chicago and safety, which have not been used in the same sentence in quite some time. But as far as like this particular spot in Evanston's not exactly gangster haven, as many of you know, but it does bring light to some darker areas near some interstates and things like that, where the less desirables hang out, otherwise known as my friends. What this bid calls for exactly. Now, there were a couple questions. They did not specify if for any reason I have to go south of the loop, whether I get combat pay. I was kind of curious about that because I would kind of want it. Combat pay in Evanston is extremely unlikely, so I'm not too worried about that. One other thing, and this is just the city of Evanston not understanding what exactly they're getting in the package known as me, but I need total artistic license because making my vision and intent a reality is a process not for the weak of heart, not for the faint of heart, not for the weak stomach. Did I just mix those up? You get the gist of it. Chicagoland, just be prepared. So this bid ends on May 16th. I'll commence work probably 2 weeks thereafter. How long it will take me, no one knows. No one knows, because when I get in the zone, I am focused until greatness is achieved. But rest assured, Chicagoland, Evanston, that greatness will be achieved. This summer, the lights be tripping in Evanston. So check it out. Check it out. And sadly, that concludes this second inaugural episode of Crazy Bids That You Can Win. My name is, once again, the Jim Ward, and I want to thank the TBBT crew. The Big Bid Theory is something that, it's a juggernaut. It's a juggernaut which I'm glad to be attached to just be along for the ride. So on that note, I'm going to turn it back over to the TBBT crew. And Bill, thank you very much for your time and listening. You were paying attention, right? You were, right? Okay. Until next time, keep looking up, kids, because that's where it all is, or something to that effect.
Crazy bids, crazy bids, crazy bids.
Take it away, guys.
We thank you for continuing to listen to and sharing the Big Bid Theory. You folks downloading TBBT have a special place in our hearts. Send those emails to me at bculhane@bidprime.com, Jim's at jward@bidprime.com, and I wonder if he has his email wherever he is. The Twitter for the show is at The Big Bid Theory. I'm contract_hunter. JW is Jim Ward, the number 6. Remember, we're also on Facebook, speaking of social media. Thank you to Jenna Gross from Moving Targets. For Jim Ward and our entire group at TBBT, continuing to wonder why we didn't put a tracking device on Jim before he left. Until the next episode, go Gunners, Barracudas, Tigers, Bobcats, and Cubs, and we wish you all the best in growing your business.
Oh, much fun. We're having so much fun.